I was rushing down the hallway toward the lobby when I heard raised voices echoing off the marble walls. Through the glass doors, I could see our delivery driver standing, completely motionless, clutching a package against his chest. Like a shield around him, at least 6 residents had gathered in a loose circle, all staring at the same thing. Karen Martinez stood directly in front of the elevator, her arms crossed, blocking anyone from getting past her position. Her voice carried clearly through the expensive acoustics of our luxury building lobby. She was demanding to see proof of ownership before allowing the package to go upstairs. The delivery driver kept gesturing toward his electronic tablet, trying to show her the address label, but Karen was having none of it. She kept repeating the same phrase over and over, that only property owners were permitted to receive packages directly in this building. Quickened my pace, my work laptop bouncing in my messenger bag as I approached the scene. The package the driver was holding looked exactly like the graphics card I had been expecting for 3 days. As I pushed through the lobby doors, Karen's sharp gaze immediately locked onto me. Before I could even speak, she pointed one perfectly manicured finger in my direction and announced that I was not authorized to receive deliveries. Either the driver looked between Karen and me with obvious confusion, checking his tablet again to confirm the delivery address. That was when Karen made her biggest mistake. She stepped forward and grabbed the package right out of his hands, declaring that she would be confiscating it until proper ownership could be verified. The driver immediately began protesting, reaching for his radio to call his supervisor. But Karen was already marching toward the concierge desk with my package tucked under her arm. What happened next set off a chain of events that would completely transform our building and ultimately land Karen in handcuffs. But to understand how we got to that point, I need to explain exactly who Karen Martinez was and why she had appointed herself as the unofficial gatekeeper of our upscale condominium complex. I had been renting my 1-bedroom unit on the 15th floor for about 8 months when I first encountered Karen as a software developer working remotely for a tech startup. I had chosen this particular building because of its reputation for professionalism and modern amenities. The monthly rent was steep, but the location was perfect for my needs, and the building management had assured me that all residents were treated equally, regardless of whether they owned or rented their units. Karen Martinez lived in the penthouse suite and served on the Homeowners Association Board of Directors. Property. The building itself was a 30-story luxury tower with about 200 units total. Roughly 60% of the residents were owners, while the remaining 40% were renters. Like myself, the lease agreements clearly stated that all residents had equal access to building amenities and services, but Karen apparently did not consider package delivery to fall under that protection. Her crusade against renter privileges began gradually and then escalated over several months. At first, it was just suspicious looks and pointed questions when she encountered delivery drivers in the lobby. Then she started positioning herself near the concierge desk during typical delivery hours, inserting herself into conversations between drivers and building staff. She would ask to see delivery confirmations and question whether certain residents were expecting packages. The building management initially treated her behavior as harmless, busybody activity. The property manager, David Chen, had been dealing with Karen's complaints and suggestions since the building opened, and he generally tried to accommodate her requests when they were reasonable. However, her increasing interference with normal building operations was starting to create real problems for both residents and delivery services. Karen's next escalation came when she began demanding that the concierge staff verify the ownership status of any resident before accepting packages on their behalf. She claimed this was necessary to prevent unauthorized individuals from using the building's mailing address for fraudulent purposes. When the staff explained that they were not legally permitted to discriminate between residents based on ownership status, Karen threatened to bring the matter before the full HOA board for an official policy change. The situation reached a breaking point for me personally when my packages started experiencing mysterious delays and complications. Items that should have been delivered directly to my door were instead being held at various distribution centers for additional verification. Delivery drivers began telling me that someone in my building had questioned their authority to complete deliveries to certain units. Some packages were being returned to senders as undeliverable, even though my address and contact information were completely accurate. At first, I assumed these were random logistical problems with different shipping companies. But when I started tracking the pattern more carefully, I realized that the delays and complications were only affecting packages addressed to my unit and a few other apartments that I knew were occupied by renters' packages. Being delivered to units owned by their occupants seemed to be getting through without any problems at all. The issue became impossible to ignore when a high V-value shipment containing computer components for my work setup went missing entirely. I had paid for. Expedited shipping and tracking showed the package had been delivered to my building's concierge desk. But when I went to collect it, the staff had no record of receiving anything. Addressed to me, the delivery confirmation included a signature, but nobody could identify who had signed for the package or where it might have gone. I spent hours on the phone with the shipping company trying to trace exactly what had happened to my missing delivery. The customer service representative was able to provide me with the timestamp and location of the delivery, confirming that it had definitely been signed for at my building's front desk. However, the signature was illegible and the delivery driver from that day was no longer available to provide additional details about who had accepted the package. That was when I decided to take matters into my own hands and find out exactly what was happening to my deliveries. I installed a small security camera near my front door, positioned so that it would capture anyone approaching my unit. I also began tracking all of my expected deliveries more carefully, noting the exact times when packages were supposed to arrive and checking with the concierge desk immediately after each delivery confirmation. The breakthrough came 3 days later when I caught Karen red-handed interfering with a delivery that was specifically addressed to me. I had ordered a replacement laptop charger and was tracking its progress throughout the day. When the delivery confirmation notification appeared on my phone, I immediately went downstairs to collect the package from the concierge desk. The concierge on duty that afternoon was Maria Santos, who had always been helpful and professional in our previous interactions. When I asked about my package, she looked confused and checked her delivery log carefully. According to her records, no packages had been delivered to the building that afternoon for any resident. She suggested that perhaps the delivery confirmation was an error, or that the package might arrive later in the day. I showed Maria the delivery confirmation on my phone, including the timestamp that indicated the package had been signed for less than 20 minutes earlier. She checked her log again and confirmed that she had been at the desk for the entire afternoon without accepting any deliveries. That was when I asked to speak with David Chen, the property manager, about reviewing the lobby security footage to determine what had actually happened to my package. David was initially reluctant to get involved, explaining that package deliveries were typically handled entirely by the concierge staff and that management did not usually intervene in routine delivery issues. However, when I explained that this was part of a pattern of missing packages and showed him the delivery confirmation details, he agreed to contact Karen directly and request that she return my package immediately. However, he also warned me that the building management had limited ability to control the actions of individual HOA board members. When David called Karen to discuss the situation, her response was both shocking and revealing. She did not deny taking my package, but instead insisted that she had been protecting the building from unauthorized deliveries. According to Karen, renters did not have the same package delivery privileges as owners, and she had been temporarily holding suspicious deliveries until their legitimacy could be verified by building management. David explained to Karen that there was no such policy in place and that all residents had equal rights to receive packages, regardless of their ownership status. He requested that she return my package immediately and stop interfering with future deliveries. Karen's response was to demand an emergency HOA board meeting to establish official policies regarding package deliveries and to clarify the different levels of privileges that should be granted to owners versus renters. Meanwhile, I was growing increasingly frustrated with the situation and decided to do some investigation of my own. I began talking to other residents about their experiences with package deliveries. particularly focusing on the other renters in the building. What I discovered was that Karen's interference had been much more extensive and systematic than I had initially realized. Jennifer Walsh, who rented a studio apartment on the 8th floor, told me that she had been having package delivery problems for over 2 months. Multiple deliveries had been marked as completed, but never reached her unit. When she complained to building management, she was told that perhaps she should consider having packages delivered to her workplace instead of the residential building. Marcus Thompson, who rented a 2-bedroom unit on the 22nd floor, had similar experiences. His packages were frequently delayed or rerouted without explanation. On 2 occasions, he had received calls from delivery companies asking him to verify his identity and ownership status before completing deliveries to his address. When he asked where these requests were coming from, the representatives were unable to provide specific details. Sarah Kim, another renter on the 12th floor, had actually witnessed Karen confronting delivery drivers in the lobby. According to Sarah, Karen would approach drivers and claim that she was building management, then demand to see delivery manifests and question whether certain residents were authorized to receive packages. Sarah had assumed this was some kind of official security procedure until she realized that only renters seemed to be affected by these additional verification requirements. As I compiled information from other affected residents, a clear pattern emerged. Karen had been systematically targeting renters for special scrutiny, while allowing packages for owners to